a video on how I make my homemade dog food. So here's what you're gonna need to get started here. You're gonna need an Instant Pot to put all of your things in. My cat's meowing in the background. That's an 8-quart Instant Pot, most are 6. You'll need some sweet potatoes. I usually use about 3 large ones, but they were kind of small, so I got 5. And just, you know, about 4 or 5 carrots, depends on how big they are. A bag of frozen green peas, a bag of frozen green beans, and a bag of frozen spinach is what I use. 2 packs of 3 pounds of ground turkey, so 6 pounds total. About 1.5 cups of rice. I use brown rice. You can use brown or white, but brown is supposed to be easier to digest. Recipe normally calls for 1/2 can of pumpkin, but I don't like to waste it, so I use a whole can. And you need a little bit of avocado, 2 cups of water, and after this is all said and done, when you're done cooking, you're going to add about a tablespoon of turmeric root and about, I don't know, 1/2 cup of coconut oil to your food when it's done cooking. So we're going to go over, and I use 1 beef liver per recipe. And this makes about 6 days of 4 cups of food, so about 24 cups of food. All right, let's get started. Okay, and just a tip, this is easier to dice when it's still kind of frozen, and this thaws out really fast. There's usually 5 per pack, or 4, but I'm on my last one or 2. So I'm gonna go and pop this in the freezer until I'm about halfway through and pop it back out, because it's gonna thaw out really fast, like I said, so you don't want slimy beef liver when you're chopping it up because it gets really nasty. So I'm gonna put that in the freezer. Okay. And you probably saw these sitting there. These are just my gloves. I like to wear gloves when I'm doing this because I like to try to keep my hands as clean as possible and just take them off when I'm done, especially since there's some raw meat involved. Scissors, of course, to open up your bags. You really need a chef's knife. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. You're going to need this to rinse your rice in and some water because it's a lot easier on your dog's digestive system if you're rinsing your rice. So first off, we're going to put a little bit of avocado oil in the pot. I just do about a tablespoon or so, maybe a little less, just to prevent anything from sticking, and plus it's good for them anyway. So let's go ahead and start cutting up our potatoes and carrots. I just rinse them through the sink to kind of get them washed off. They don't have to be perfect. They're dogs, as long as they're not muddy. That's not going to be a big deal. Put this over there, out of the way. And then got your little junk bag over here if you need it. If the ends of the potatoes are kind of crusty and hard, like that's kind of got a hard tip, I'll throw them in there. I'm sure the dogs don't mind it. I just do that because I don't know, it just seems like I should. If they're bigger chunks, I try to cut them up a little bit just so they fit better in the pot, because this pot's gonna get really full. You'll see what I'm talking about. When I'm picking out my sweet potatoes, I try to get the skinnier ones. They're a lot easier to cut when they're skinny, and my knife is a little dull right now, so it's a lot easier to cut the potatoes when they're skinny. And they definitely do get really tough to cut when they're really thick. See, that end's bothering me. I just don't like that. I know I'm being really risky with my fingers right now. Make sure you're really careful with your knife. Especially when you have a dull knife like mine. They don't have to be perfect. All this is going to get cooked, and when it's done cooking, it's going to get mushed anyway before you divide it into containers. So, just try to chop those up a little bit, just so we can fit all of our ingredients in here. I probably should have got one potato less than what I did, but I don't want to just put one random potato in the pantry because that's not gonna work out. Okay, I want to cut our ends off our carrots. Once again, I try to get carrots that are not crazy thick. That way I can do this a little faster and cut them all together. Work smarter, not harder. Okay, now that all that's in, we're gonna be done with this cutting board for a minute. Okay, now we're gonna add our frozen peas and green beans. Oh, I need a little more, a little bigger opening there. So I just happen to do carrots and sweet potatoes first. I guess it's not a huge deal. That's just how I do it. Beans. And at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and get my beef liver out of the freezer so it can not be so hard for me to chop. Okay, next we're gonna go ahead and do our brown rice, and you want about 1.5 cups. So a bag this size usually lasts me about 4 times of making this. I just get Kroger brand long green brown rice. And it's just really good to rinse it in some water because you'll see it's very, it's a little dusty. My sink's a little dirty right now, but you know, that's why. So kind of just put your fingers in it like this, mix it around, trying to get all that, any kind of dirt or nasty stuff out of there. And you basically just want to rinse your rice until the water runs a little more clean. And I usually do it about 4 times. Sometimes the rice is cleaner than other times, I notice. And it's not just dirt, it's, I can't think of the right word. Anyway, you want to rinse your rice. Okay, so as you can see, the water is a little clearer now. I washed it, you know, usually about 4 or 5 times. This time I did about 5 or 6. It's kind of pretty dusty. There's another word I'm thinking of. I'm just going to call it dust. So I kind of try to let it settle, by the way, before I pour it. That way, if you instantly start pouring it, your rice is just going to float right on out. If you get a little water in there, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and add my rice. So try to get as much as you can. Usually with what's left, we're going to want to add 2 cups of water to this before cooking. So I usually do that now so I can get the rest of the rice with it. And I use filtered water. That's why I had a separate thing of water, because I'd rather use filtered water than sink water for my animals. Oh, look, that didn't work out so well that time. Just try to get as much as you can in there. Okay, after that, we're gonna add spinach. I just get Kroger cut leaf spinach. You could use fresh spinach too. I get that sometimes if it's on clearance. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really make a difference in the amount of water you add either, I've noticed. As long as you have about 10 ounces of spinach, 10 to 12. This is 12 ounces. If you're using fresh spinach, it's gonna be a little less because it's gonna be a lot bigger of a bag for that same amount. After that, we're gonna add our pumpkin. Like I said, half can is okay. I use the whole can because I don't like to waste any of it, and I'm making 1 batch at a time. By the time I make another batch, this probably isn't gonna be good if it's in the fridge. Okay. After that, we're gonna go ahead and chop our liver. To the pot. kind of gross. Sticks together funny sometimes too. That's just part of chopped liver. Okay. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and add our 6 pounds of turkey. I use 85% lean, 15% fat. I find it to be the best deal at Kroger is what I found so far, so that's kind of what I stick with. Just open that. This is why I like the gloves. And then I kind of squish it in the top here. And I try to pick out turkey that has a nice, oh, this knife is dull, a nice pink color. Sometimes I go to the store and it's like got a dull, slimier looking color. That's kind of a sign it's aging, so just try to get as fresh as possible. Just kind of work it in the top here. This is why it's important to have an 8-quart for this recipe, because a 6-quart will just simply not be enough space. And I know there's a max line on here. I do this every time and it is fine. So pack it in like that. I'm gonna take off my gloves at this point and plug in the pressure cooker. All right, we're gonna go ahead and add our lid onto the pressure cooker, turn it to seal it. Back here on the back of the pressure cooker, mine has an automatic seal, but I think this is a newer style. If yours doesn't, just make sure that you have this on seal. That way you don't have liquid splurting all over your kitchen. But if you have this style, it should automatically do it. And we are just going to hit pressure cook right here. And we're going to do normal high pressure. I turned the keep warm button off because I don't want it to keep warm. And we're gonna do 25 minutes. You just set it and it's gonna come up to a pressure. And when it's ready, it will automatically start. And I just kind of let it do a natural pressure release when it's done. And I usually let it naturally release for probably a good half hour before I go ahead and release the pressure. That way it kind of has that extra amount to cook. But if you're in a hurry, you don't have to do that when it's done. It should be done after 25 minutes. Okay, so the Instant Pot is now done. And the pressure I just let naturally release. So it's been sitting here. So let's go ahead and take it out and we'll go from there. That's what it looks like at first. Okay, so I'm gonna take it out of here because it's easier and it's not hot if you touch it on the top. And it looks disgusting at first, but it's gonna look better. So this is the coconut oil. It is just about empty, so I'm gonna add what's left of it. So about that much, I guess about half a cup. Somewhere around there. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. And then you're going to add a little bit of turmeric powder, about a teaspoon or so. And then we are going to just mash it up from there. I use a potato masher. I think that's the easiest method to do this. And the coconut oil is going to kind of melt as you're doing this. Okay, so I got it pretty mashed up. You want to try to get down in there because your sweet potatoes and carrots are going to be down in there, and you want to make sure you get it very thoroughly mixed. And then I'm just going to do this on my own without showing you because that's not rocket science. I get a cup's worth. Depending on what kind of dog, what size dog you have. I have a German Shepherd and he's about 90 pounds. He gets around, should probably get about 4 cups a day. So I scoop up a cup and I put it in each one of these containers right here. And I fill each one of these containers holds 4 cups, which is what my dog needs. And so this will last me 6 days, and I just divvied out 4 cups per container. He gets half of a dish in the morning, half a dish in the evening. And one more thing that I really want to point out, it's important to understand, is just giving your dog Even though we're adding turmeric and coconut oil and all these delicious vegetables and proteins, that's not enough. Your dog still needs, you know, extra vitamins, minerals, and in my case, my German Shepherd, he needs glucosamine and chondroitin for his hips. It's good to supplement that in the diet. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what I add to this, because this is just not enough. So these are some things that I add to the diet to kind of help balance out the nutrition, how it should be. So usually about 2 to 3 times a week, I will add a fresh cracked egg on top of his food. His breakfast, he'll get a raw egg, and that provides calcium. I put the shell with the egg. But more importantly than that, you want to supplement the food. And I do use this Canine Complete. I get this off Chewy.com. You can also buy it off Amazon. Here's what it looks like. It's like a little green powder, and he gets a spoonful in the morning, a spoonful in the evening. I shake it on top of his breakfast and dinner, and I give him glucosamine and chondroitin for joint health. He gets 1 tablet at dinner time. And something else I do, but besides the egg to add into the diet, is I do give my dogs, I have these little lick pads. You get these off Amazon. And I just get a spatula and I add a little bit of yogurt. So this is what I happen to have right now. You could also use Kroger brand, any kind of, I mean, you just want to get non-fat if you can. Or the main important thing is you're getting plain. You don't want flavors. You don't want all these syrups and sugars. You want to cut that as much as you can. But I'll get a dollop of this, spread it on my lick pad, and put this in the freezer for approximately 25-30 minutes, and it becomes a frozen treat. And it's full of probiotics, minerals, and calcium as well. So something to think about. All right, guys, just want to show you what this looks like after all the containers are filled, and kind of what I do to balance this out. So I get a potato masher once again, and I kind of smash it down, make it nice and pretty and flat. Make sure you get the middle even out here so it goes down well. And you can freeze these containers. If you freeze them, I'd probably recommend using them within 3 to 4 months. I'm sure they'll last a little longer, but you know, that's what's recommended. So we're gonna mash all these down, and this actually, sometimes it makes a little more, sometimes it makes a little less, usually a little more than what I need, because it just kind of depends on how big your sweet potatoes are and your carrots. Kind of all that going together. So in this case, this turned out pretty good because I think I have a little over what I need this time. These containers are pretty good and full. I mean, they're kind of widened out at the bottom too because it's hot, so. Yep, they're all nice and pretty. Lids will go on, they'll go in the fridge, and I use all 6 of these within the week. Sometimes I'll pop 1 or 2 in the freezer. Hey guys, I just want to say thanks for tuning in on my video. I hope that I helped guide you to get started for your homemade dog food. But please keep in mind that what works for my dog may not work for yours. There are different breeds, different energy levels, allergies. My dog does best with turkey, but there's, I mean, beef, chicken, there are other options out there, obviously. So just keep that in mind when you're watching these informational videos and tutorials on YouTube and other social media accounts, that it's really important to just, it's good to take that information in, but definitely do your own research for what kind of dog you have, and kind of just make sure you're choosing the right thing for your dog's lifestyle and breed. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, and see you on the next one.